Max poked a straw on his food packet and gave it an experimental whiff. It smelled rotten, and on his first slurp he found it tasted worse. He wasn't the only one. Across the crowd, now divided into small groups of acquaintances, he saw Ishan gagging after each swallow. Max bounced over to him.
Awful, isn't it?
Terrible. This is the worst thing I've ever tasted,
Ishan replied. After a few more painful slurps, the two acquiesced to their taste buds and put down their packets.
This must be what they serve themselves. It's probably gourmet to them.
Or it's the slop they feed their animals.
Ishan suggested morosely. Max looked at him.
You don't believe them, then?
Their story about this war?
Ishan shook his head.
It's a sample size of one. I bet if we asked their enemies, we'd get a far different story. And that's if there even is a war and they aren't lying about what they want us to do.
My gut is saying they're telling the truth,
Max countered.
Then go with it. I've got no evidence to the contrary.
Ishan shrugged.
Either way, that guy's right.
He pointed at Keen, who was introducing himself to a circle of people.
If we can't resist in any meaningful way, then we have to comply with their demands until we can resist.
Ishan's head fell, crestfallen.
But when we finally get the chance to resist, we'll all probably be dead.
Max crunched his packet in his clenched hand. A dribble of yellow gruel floated out of the tip of the straw.
No, we're not going to die. If you agree with Keen, then you can trust him when he says we can make it out alive. We just have to prepare ourselves.
Ishan laughed bitterly.
Ha! Have you taken a look at me? I'm not fit to be a soldier. I just didn't have any medical complications. Maybe a little hypertension could have saved me from ever coming up here.
He showed off his twiggy bicep.
I'm a software developer. I never played sports in school, and I've never hit the gym. I'm going to die before I ever see home.
He sighed. A wet droplet detached from his eyelid and hung in the air between them. Max put his hand on Ishan's shoulder. His words rang hollow. If he told them to himself, he wouldn't believe them. But he hoped they would still work on Ishan.
There's only one person who decides whether you live or die, and that's you. If you say you'll die here, then maybe you just will. But if you refuse, if you spit in the faces of these birds like we're all going to do, then you're going to live in spite of them. You're going to see one more sunrise on Earth before you die.
Ishan looked back at him with doubtful eyes shrunken with grief. Max was never a good motivational speaker, so he tried his hand at being a motivational doer. He picked up his packet and took another slurp. It tasted like wet coffee grounds now that it had cooled down. He held down his reflex to gag just long enough to force the gruel down his throat. Tears welled in his eyes from the pain.
The first step is choosing to eat. You're going to need your protein if you want bigger biceps.
Ishan picked up his packet and stared at it like it was the face of death.
Eat,
Max commanded. He took the plunge with another slurp. Ishan nervously raised his straw to his lips. He chewed on his first sip for a moment, cheeks bristling.
Don't chew. All you need to do is swallow.
His old seatmate reluctantly gulped, pushing the vile stuff down his throat. He struck his chest a few times with a fist and gasped for air.
Again,
Max ordered. Ishan shook his head.
I can't do any more.
One more, Ishan. You're over the hump. That packet's nearly done.
Ishan exhaled. He forced another disgusting mouthful down his hatch.
See, it gets easier the more you do it.
I think I'm going to throw up.
You're almost there. Give me one more. Can you do one more for me?
Max begged. Ishan's trembling fingers squeezed the last of the mush into the straw and then into his mouth. He swallowed. The silver demon crumpled in his hand. He crushed it into a little ball and hurled it away from himself, then took a few exultant breaths.
You did it!
Max cheered.
You asshole.
Ishan laughed with relief.
You treated me like a baby.
Max shrugged.
Hey, you know what they say? Baby steps.
Ishan looked at Max and smiled.
Well, anyway, thanks for the encouragement.
Anytime.
Keen and a few others collected everyone's trash after dinner. Max hastily stumbled after Ishan's throw, eager to prove his helpfulness. The pallet had come helpfully enough, with a bag to dispose it all in. Ishan's watch beeped 11 at night back in the eastern United States. From the day's travel and shocks, Max felt more than ready for bed. Still, he found it hard to fall asleep in 0G. Unless he remained as still as a statue, he floated away from his rest against either wall or floor. He folded his arms in defeat and curled in against the corner. His eyes had to rely on more gravity to finally shut. Max awoke the next morning on the other side of the room, having drifted imperceptibly through the night like a tectonic plate. He needed some place to relieve himself badly. So did most everyone else waking up. A few verbal demands to the screen and pounds on the hatch later. The aliens provided a handful of their equivalent to porta potties, welding themselves to the floor like the pallet had. Each even came equipped with a shower which the humans indulged in while they waited for breakfast. Some indulged a little too long for the others' appreciation, however. After a half hour of grumbling from the line, Keen instituted Navy showers. Turn on the shower just long enough to get wet, turn it off and suds up with the liquid soap from the dispenser, turn it back on just to rinse. It cut each shower down to 1 or 2 minutes, and soon the line moved along swimmingly.
I figure they'll appreciate all the water we're saving them,
Keen said to Max. Valerie rolled her eyes. Their breakfast food pallet arrived as the last showers finished. This gruel tasted mediocre, but that was one giant leap for this portion of mankind who had experienced last night's fare. Keen decided to address the room while everyone was eating, climbing a bit up the wall so they all could see him above them.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you slept well.
A few chuckles said otherwise.
I've introduced myself to most of you, but my name is Lieutenant Francis Keen of the United States Army. Besides my rank, which admittedly means nothing up here, my only qualification to lead is that I've got a plan to survive. That plan requires us to train. Hard. Harder than you ever have. I will work you like a drill sergeant. But when we get to Tovakshom, we'll be able to survive. We'll be able to fight and win and get back to Earth again.
No one in the crowd visibly disagreed so far.
First, we need to be in the best physical condition we can possibly be. That means we exercise. We'll need the birds' help for that.
He glanced sideways at the black screen.
Maybe they can provide us with some equipment. Maybe there's gravity someplace on this ship where we can train. Either way, we need to be fit physically. Secondly, and more importantly, we need to fit together. The only way we survive this is by keeping each other alive. We need to be not just a team, but a unit. One in mind and purpose. So I've asked 2 of you to be my lieutenants. Rich, Valerie, if you could join me.
Max and Valerie each pushed off the floor and out of the crowd, heading to meet Keen up on the wall. Valerie glared at Max. Max did his best to put on a brave face for the crowd.
These are my lieutenants, Rich Taylor and Valerie Wilson. They'll each take half of the group and lead it. They do so under my orders and my supervision. Listen to them as you'd listen to me.
Keen grabbed Max and Valerie's hands and raised them like prize fighters above their heads.
The only way we stand a chance is if we stand together.
The crowd cheered.
I'm surprised the apes really made their lottery random,
Van Tail muttered after Keen introduced himself on their screen.
I would never give up my military officers.
Fairwing finally had his turn to laugh.
Humans are surprising, aren't they?
Quite.
Said the irritated xenologist.
But this nonsense about exercise equipment? They're already straining our rations and water reclamation as it is, and we have hardly a few thousand aboard. The fabricators can only do so much, unless you wish to put them on a diet.
Would you have the soldiers lose all their muscle and bone to atrophy?
Fairwing asked. He turned to the Admiral.
We don't need to burden the fabricators with expensive equipment, sir. All we need to do is give them access to the habitation ring.
Preposterous! They've been thinking of mutiny ever since they came on board. Unless we fit them with collars, they'll take the whole crew hostage in their bunks. I doubt you would much enjoy shocking them, Xenographer.
It can be done without lowering ourselves to that,
replied Fairwing coolly.
We give them a certain allotment of time in the day, and only one compartment of the ring per group. We seal the hatches to the dormitories themselves and let them use the open spaces for their exercise. That way, they don't get the chance to congregate with their own, nor the chance to hurt any of our crew.
And what about transporting them to the ring?
We close hatches as necessary, escort them with guards.
Fairwing trailed off to stare daggers at Fantail.
They won't try to escape. They know the threat of lanthanum gas now.
A xenologist is not without his uses.
Fantail fluttered cheerfully at Fairwing's capitulation.
The xenographer has his uses as well.
Admiral Roundclaw finally spoke.
He knows how surprisingly useful these humans can be, especially when they're in shape. Figure out a rotating schedule for the holds and the crew's quarters.
His foreclaw clacked against Keen's face on the screen.
We'll let this one and his group go first.